With the recent news of the Late Model Cars Tour entering a financial partnership with Jeff Burton, Dale Earnhardt, Kevin Harvick, and Justin Marks, as well as the SRX series headed by Tony Stewart entering its third season of competition, NASCAR for the first time in a long time now has to deal with two rival stock car racing series, both of which now have some seriously big money and big names behind them, all while current drivers on the NASCAR roster are voicing their displeasure louder than ever. So this then begs the question, is NASCAR facing a split? The short answer? No. Well, that's it, folks. Thanks for watching. Anyway, I'm Slap Susan. Until next time, y'all take it easy. Wait. No. That was a joke. That was a joke. Come back. Let's talk this over for a minute. Take your seats. Take your seats. There's still a lot to talk about here. Alright, so as it stands right now, we are far away from any sort of major split in stock car racing. As a matter of fact, it's not even on the radar. It's pure speculation at this point. But what even is a sanctioning body split anyway? Well, imagine the USFL kicks off this year and they do pretty well, and then there are so many NFL players that have beef with the NFL and their team owners that dozens of high-profile guys like Aaron Rodgers, Christian McCaffrey, Devontae Adams, and Patrick Mahomes go off to play in the USFL instead, and even a few team owners come and join them. This would be, at best, a major concern for the NFL, who now all of a sudden have to compete against a league and personnel on equal footing with them, and at worst, this would be the end of the NFL altogether as we know it. It would be downright apocalyptic. And as a matter of fact, something like this has already happened in the world of motorsports back in 1996. Championship Auto Racing Teams, or CART, was the premier open-wheel racing series in America from 1979 to 1996. But when costs for teams started to skyrocket and smaller teams started having beef with the sanctioning body, in comes the owner of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to partner with the disaffected teams and start a lower-cost league to compete against CART. That split took an already struggling motorsport and split the teams, TV deals, advertiser money, and fans, and open-wheel racing never recovered from that, even though CART and the Indy Racing League unified all the way back in 2008. Yeah, when I talk about a split being apocalyptic and spelling certain doom, I'm not kidding. If it wasn't for the Indy 500 raking in hundreds of millions of dollars every year, then that series would have folded years ago. But what does NASCAR have to worry about, right? I mean, what are we even up against anyway? Well, let's have a look-see. The Cars Tour is the biggest late model touring series in the Southeast, and is the spiritual successor of the Hooters Pro Cup racing series from the 90s and 2000s. They race all over the Carolinas and Virginia, and they have some local heroes amidst their ranks. Although any young guys making a name for themselves there usually end up going into NASCAR because the money and notoriety are substantially better over there. The Cars Tour, however, is not on TV, but they do stream their races on Flow Racing, and that service has been gaining a steady amount of steam for quite a while now. The Superstar Racing Experience, or SRX, on the other hand, is a big step in a very different direction. Founded by Tony Stewart, they take a bunch of living legends who have retired from full-time racing and put them in identical cars, send them out to local short tracks, both paved and dirt, and let loose. It's not really taken as a super serious, legitimate motorsport. By Tony's own admission, all of this is just for fun. But you know what is serious? Those crowds and that money. These places got packed out for these events. I have never seen crowds like this for a local short track show. And the TV money from CBS is a major feather in their cap too. And who couldn't love it? Where else are you going to watch the defending Indy 500 winner take on the defending Cup Series champion on the high banks of the Nashville Fairgrounds? Come on, that's just absolutely frickin' amazing that I got to watch that in person. Its success has been a bit surprising, but what's more surprising is that NASCAR never thought to do this themselves. They did host a one-off race like this in the 90s in the infield quarter-mile track at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and then they just never did that again. The SRX right now has a lot of momentum behind it, and the Cars Tour could get that same shot in the arm here soon. And now they have 4 big-name partners with seriously deep pockets and a genuine love of short-track racing. They have all the pieces in place to push late-model racing to the same heights they found 20 years ago. And it's really desperately needed, because right now, if you want to make money in the short-track racing scene, all of the money is in dirt these days. I remember in 2018 at the Greenville Pickens Speedway, we had the Meltdown Super Late Model race, which paid $10,000 to win. And I thought that was a big frickin' deal at the time. But routinely, dirt track races are paying out $20,000, $50,000, or $100,000 to win marquee events. Hell, go to any random dirt track in America, and you'll notice that even the amenities are better there than their asphalt counterparts. Lancaster Motor Speedway in South Carolina is out in the middle of nowhere, and they have a massive jumbotron just chilling in the infield. When was the last time you saw something like that at a random podunk paved short track? No wonder dirt fans are so loyal, they're well taken care of. And take a look at Little River Raceway, also in South Carolina, formerly known as Modoc Raceway. In 2022, they announced they would not have weekly racing that year since they were going to renovate the track and would have one big event when it was all said and done. But during renovations, they found that there was more wrong with the structural integrity of the track than they had previously thought. So they held off racing there for a whole year and fixed those problems and say they'll be back later in 2023. When was the last time a paved short track owner said they would be renovating a track for 2 years as a passion project because they love the venue so much, even though they wouldn't bring in a single dollar of revenue during that time? Only in the dirt track world does this kind of thing happen. And asphalt late model racing just doesn't have anything like that because it simply needs an injection of cash and a change in business model and marketing. And now, well, we have it thanks to our 4 horsemen of the Cars Tour. But is this a problem for NASCAR? Do they have anything to worry about? Well, when I went to the 2021 SRX finale at Nashville, I talked to a certain NASCAR journalist who told me something to the effect of NASCAR is paying very close attention to this. And that tracks because NASCAR does not like competition. They bought out the ARCA series, they let IndyCar and CART race on their tracks just so they could drive a wedge further between them and siphon away fans. And once you get as big as NASCAR is, you don't take too kindly to upstart operations when they pop up. When I was talking to that journalist, the words buyout and acquire popped up quite a few times. But even though SRX is doing well and the Cars Tour is getting a big injection of cash, the bigger problem NASCAR faces is on the home front. Drivers are not happy with how things are being run right now, and really they haven't been happy for almost 20 years now. We've seen guys retire suddenly just because they were so fed up with the current state of things, with stage cautions, bad officiating, and a stupidly gimmicked championship points format that seems more like a crapshoot than a legitimate testament of skill. Hell, even some teams shut down because their owners just didn't have it in them anymore to deal with the BS currently in place. More than a few drivers have voiced their concerns about the new next-gen car and about how NASCAR conducts itself these days, and at every turn, NASCAR has either ignored them or half-assed an attempt to humor them so they'll shut up. Here's an interview with Tony Stewart in 2018, 2 years after he retired from NASCAR, that puts into perspective where he and a lot of others fall in opposition to NASCAR.
I remember 20 of us drivers went about, 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, and sat with NASCAR and said, these are the things that we think will help make the sport better. And a person in NASCAR that I won't name sat there and looked me square in the eye and said that everything that we were talking about and what I was saying was 180 degrees backwards from what they thought was going to fix it. And this is a guy that never worked on a race car, never driven a race car, that worked for an auto manufacturer, that came in and all of a sudden he was smarter than everybody that's ever been around the sport and driven race cars for 20 plus years. And that's kind of when I was like, we're in bad shape. We're in trouble having somebody like this guy that's changing the direction of what's going to happen.
Jeez, after that interview, it's no wonder he started up the SRX series and retired as soon as he did. Christ almighty, I wouldn't stick around either after a sit down like that. And it's not just him. Kevin Harvick has been especially vocal about his displeasure with NASCAR. And despite him having a few of the best seasons of his entire career in the last few years, at the end of 2023, he's calling it quits and focusing on the Cars Tour. Remember, he's one of those 4 big investors. Denny Hamlin has been increasingly disgruntled with NASCAR management. And he owns a race team now, with financial backing from none other than Michael frickin' Jordan. If he wants to throw in with the Cars Tour along with the other 4, he could put a lot of pieces in place. Justin Marks, owner of Trackhouse Racing, has financial backing from Mr. Worldwide himself, and he's already involved in the Cars deal. Everything is in position for them to make some sort of stand in the next few years if they want that smoke. But I don't think they want that smoke. Sure, it looks like a split might happen knowing all of that, but I just don't see it coming together. SRX is made up of a few young hotshot drivers, some IndyCar guys, and a lot of retired NASCAR drivers who are in their 50s or 60s. That series is not ever going to challenge NASCAR with that kind of model. As for the Cars Tour, they're made up of older career late model drivers, and like we stated earlier, most of their field is made up of guys who have their eyes on eventually going after the fame and fortune that only NASCAR can offer. They would have to position themselves not as a feeder series but its own distinct entity, like SRX has done. But that's not going to be easy, no matter how much money you have. And even then, everybody involved in this knows exactly how much damage a split would do. Heck, Tony Stewart was right smack dab in the middle of that back in 1996. He was an IndyCar driver back then. They all know damned well that an attempted split would cost a fortune and probably not work out, and even if they did supplant NASCAR, they would almost certainly be on the backslide after the dust settled. All of that, and I still haven't even addressed how SRX and the Cars Tour are 2 completely separate entities with vastly different end goals and business models. They literally couldn't merge to take on NASCAR even if they wanted to. They're too different. One is a nostalgia-fueled spec car event for fun, and the other is a serious short track series where teams take on the cost of building cars, not the sanctioning body. There's practically no common ground. And you're trying to knock off NASCAR, a multi-billion-dollar corporate behemoth. NASCAR will pull out all the stops and smother any serious attempt to dethrone them in the cradle. As Tony alluded to earlier in that interview, NASCAR is run by savvy businessmen, not racers. They know how to keep their top spot. Plus, there's absolutely no evidence that anybody in the Cars Tour even wants to do this. They have made no statements that would suggest that. So far, it looks like they just honestly want local short track racing in the grassroots late model scene to thrive, much like the USAR Pro Cup Series did back in the 2000s. There is absolutely no indication of a grandmaster plan to do a hostile takeover of the real estate that NASCAR currently occupies. That is just total fantasy at this point. To be honest, it's in everybody's best interest for the trio to feed off of each other. SRX bringing rising and retired stars to local short tracks to drum up support there, Cars Tour being the ground floor of stock car racing in America, and NASCAR being the crown jewel, the upper echelon of American motorsports that every racer dreams of. So the long answer, no, NASCAR isn't facing a split. The motivation isn't there, the means aren't there, and everybody involved knows that that would be a bad idea. It is merely a possibility that nobody involved has even hinted at yet. A few pieces are in the right place if somebody wanted to pull the trigger, but nobody does. So, in the meantime, go enjoy your NASCAR racing at your venue of choice, go watch some legends duke it out at your local short track for shots and goggles, and definitely check out the Cars Tour if they come to your neck of the woods. They got some badass drivers and some badass cars over there. Of course, I could say that about the other two series as well. Anyway, I'm Slapshoes, thanks for watching, and stop talking about splits. We got enough to worry about as it is. Go support your local short track instead. And until next time, y'all take it easy.